Hello, dear aquarist, dear fish keeper. Today it's interesting for the pond keeper, particularly the people that keep koi fish. Yes, the koi fish have been suffering since already nearly 20 years or 18 years by the KHV viral infection. And I came across a very interesting study that explains what we might be able to do to create good quality carp. So I'll give you here my summary of that article, that study that has been done, and below you will find the link to that article, so you might go more in detail. But it's an interesting article that explain you how we can handle problems with KHV, because this study was done to look at the resistance of a synthetic population of Indonesian common carp to the koi herpes virus, KHV. And yeah, I will explain in short in the abstract what has been done, and I will go further on in detail. The abstract says one of the effects of a decrease in the genetic quality of common carp is a decrease in resistance to diseases. That means, yes, when you breed fish, you might breed a fish that is more vulnerable to get the diseases, to get less immunity. We know that in breeding fish. Well, here, they want to establish a synthetic population, which is a population blended from 5 different strains of carps from Indonesia. Here you see the names, I will not pronounce it, but 5 carps were mixed together, blended together in a species, a synthetic species, a breed, which is expected to increase the disease resistance in the Indonesian common carp population, because there was a lot of problems with KHV. They want to see, can we raise a kind of carp that is resistant to the viral infection KHV. So the study here aims to evaluate the resistance of this synthetic carp population to the koi herpes virus disease. And they find out, and we will conclude at the end, I will explain more in detail, at the end that the challenge, the survival rate of this synthetic population of those 5 mixed breed of carps was 62%, significantly higher than other strains. And the other strains had only a 20 or to 26% survival rate. So the results of this challenge indicated that a synthetic population of common carp had better resistance to KHV than other strains of common carp cultured by the farmers. That means you can do something when you breed a certain variety of carp with a higher resistance against disease. Well, we know it. Fish with a better immunity, a better genetic background, you can say, has a better defense against infections. And here specifically, this was directed to KHV and carp, because we know that KHV, koi herpes virus, that the control of the disease has been carried out on several ways: by culture management, increasing body's immunity against diseases, externally through the administration of immunostimulants. Yes, these are all approaches that might help in some way. And the use of specific pathogenic free seed or offspring or babies or what else, that particularly is being done in Israel, that they have a pathogenic KHV free fish. However, all those efforts have not yet obtained the maximum positive results. And that's why they want to do the study, because the lack of success in overcoming carp diseases through externally enhancing immunity has spurred efforts to increase carp immunity internally through genetic quality improvement. And this study is about the genetic quality improvement. The establishment of a synthetic population of Indonesian common carp, which is done in this study, has been carried out by the Research Institute for Fish Breeding in Indonesia. And they reported that this synthetic population has a higher genetic variation because a mix of 5 different carps is a good mix. Well, you can select what you want, but this was directed to 5 different carp strains. And they wanted to evaluate the resistance of this synthetic population to disease infections, especially KHV. And therefore, they did a challenge test of this population before they'd been used in the farmers. So it's an experiment, which might be used later on in the farm industry. The tested fish is a synthetic population, a blend of 5 strains, the Rajaduna, the Majalaya, the Sutisna, the Wildan, and the Sinoya, how can I pronounce it? Those are carp strains in Indonesia. And they compare that with populations from 3 other carp strains commonly available in Indonesia. Different strains, the Mayala carp, the Kangrinkan carp, and the Subang carp. So that's compared. And the mixed strain population of the fish not infected with KHV were used as a negative control. So they had a negative control as a challenge test, 3 carp strains, and then the synthetic population, I mean the special cultivated population. So they ejected the carps and they kept them in aquaria, then also controlled the temperature, which was kept around 20 to 22 degrees, which is an optimal condition to develop KHV. So they were injected with homogenate KHV filtrate, which is a technique to eject, well, KHV viral particles. And they tested it with a test result. And the results and the discussion here is here already produced in this table here, that the synthetic population, the mix of all the carps, which was a special breed, had 62% survival rate, while the other 3 strains had only 20 to 26%. And the negative control population was a mix of different carps, which had not been infected with KHV, had 100% survival rate. So that was a nice observation that the test had a value in this case. And here you see it in the table that the 100% survival rate here in the blue line, and here in this blue balls, that was the synthetic population, the special breed of carps mix, and here below the more or lesser survival rate of the other strains. Based on both the table and the figure, can be seen that the synthetic population has the highest average survival rate compared to the other strains, 62%. The low survival rate of the 3 comparison fish strains in this challenge is caused by a low genetic quality of the carp. That's what the test proves. Those carps are more vulnerable to the KHV. So in general, the level of genetic variation of a carp in Indonesia is relatively low due to the high rate of inbreeding in carp hatcheries. And that sometimes people might think about breeding koi, the inbreeding, because they're small facilities, it's more risky that there is going to be inbreeding. So the larger the facility, the larger the possibility of mix of genetic strains, the better the results will be. The synthetic population of the Indonesian carp were formed to increase the genetic variation of the population. That's what it says. And it's much better than the other varieties. So the genetic variation in this synthetic population is suspected to significantly increase the body's resistance to disease infections, especially KHV proven in this study here. And it explained that a population with that genetic variation greatly influences the resistance to disease. Something valuable to think about when you try to breed good quality of koi is breeding a good genetic variation which has a genetic resistance against disease and infection. And the conclusion is that the synthetic population of these common carp here in this study had a survival rate of 62%, which was significantly better than the other 3 carp populations. And the results showed that the synthetic carp population has success in resistance to KHV infection and a potential of being cultured or used as a base population for selective programs in breeding. Well, I hope you can understand this study, that it's, how can I say, important to realize that you have a good breeding facility with a good mix of strains of carp or koi carp that together with maybe a mix of 4 or 5 different strains develop a good immune resistance. And in this case, you can even test for KHV in this case. So mixing different colors, not selecting all of the colors, but selecting on a high quality resistant strains, I think that has a very good potential in the market for carp, koi carp, KHV. I hope this study brings you some good ideas for the ornamental koi carp industry. Thank you for watching, and I hope you use this practice as a way of working in a better way with koi carp. Thank you for watching.